Hello, good night. This is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I'm here live to take your U.S. immigration related questions. Go ahead and put your questions in the comments so that I may answer your questions. Tonight I have a great topic for you, and it is what kind of mistreatment qualifies you for VAWA. If you have joined me before, you know that I talk about VAWA often. VAWA is the Violence Against Women Act. Even though it does have the name with women in there, it's not just for women, it's for men. It's also for situations. So if you're in a parent-child situation, or hi there, Queen Bee, or you're in a spousal relationship, it's going to apply here. Now, if you're being mistreated by a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident spouse, or a parent if you're under 21 and unmarried, or by a U.S. citizen's son or daughter who's 21 and up, then you could qualify for this form of relief. And what this form of relief does, it allows you to apply for your own permanent residence as well as your own work permit while you wait for the process to go through. It also allows you to stay here even if at this time you are without status, if you've overstayed your visa, and even if you have came into the country without permission, you may be able to qualify for this. So it is, in fact, it is a very important form of relief for so many individuals who feel like their backs are against the wall and they're unable to move forward in their process. I'm here to tell you that this could be for you. Now, if you're here in the United States, you are currently in a situation with your spouse or your parent, they're mistreating you, you feel that, then you may qualify. My rule here is that if you're feeling like you're being treated unfairly, you're being treated badly, you're being disrespected by your U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident spouse or parent if you're under 21, under 25 in some cases, then consider this. And I'm going to give you some examples of mistreatment to show you what kind of disrespect, what kind of mistreatment, what kind of cruelty towards you could qualify you for this form of relief. Let me also remind you here that I'm here to answer your U.S. immigration related questions. So at any time that you want, put your questions in the comments. I will answer your questions. Now, while you think of your questions, I'm going to continue talking. And I see some questions here on TikTok, so let me go ahead and answer those. So what happens, hi there user 378, what happens after submitting all documents to NVC for CR2? So at that point, once the NVC has reviewed the documentation, so you go into that portal, right, that the NVC has, the SIAC, and you upload all the documents. It's going to take a while, but the National Visa Center is going to review it. For example, with Jamaica, it's taking about 3 months for them to review the documentation and say whether everything is good. If everything is good, you will get a notice from the National Visa Center that states that you're documentarily qualified and that they're going to send this on to the embassy, and now you are in line for the interview. But keep in mind, that doesn't mean you're going to get the interview right away. It just means now you're in line to get that interview date. I am seeing long wait times for interviews that can go from a few months to even up to a year. Whether, I don't know where you are in your situation, but that is what you could expect after submitting all the correct documentation to the National Visa Center. Thanks, Geminian, for sharing the live. I appreciate it. How long does NVC take to approve a case? So the National Visa Center doesn't approve it, but they do, and I think TT tapping, it goes to the question that you were saying before. They do review it to make sure that everything looks good and that you have submitted everything they've requested. Then they pass it on to the embassy and schedule the interview. For Jamaica, I don't know if you're in Jamaica, but I'm seeing overall worldwide, because in the multiple cases around the world, I'm seeing an average time of about 3 months for them to review it and get back to you. There's also a processing time on that you can look at, where they tell you what their timeline is. And so if you go to the National Visa Center's website, you'll be able to see that there. But I'm seeing months where they have to review it first and then let you know. Does my spouse have the power to deport me? Vice 137, no, they don't have the power to deport you. If your spouse is threatening to get you deported, you need to schedule a consultation and then we'll talk about what's going on in your situation. Now, a spouse can always, what they can do is, and you should take those threats very seriously and get legal advice as to what your options are. They can, go to the immigration service or they can go to ICE and they can report you for some sort of wrongdoing. And that may or may not, it just depends on what they're reporting, cause you some harms throughout the immigration process. So for example, I've seen situations where you may be in the middle of your process and then your spouse writes a letter to the USCIS saying, it was all fake, I don't want to do this anymore. And that's to intentionally sabotage the process. That is not true. Or they may just write and say they no longer want to move forward with the process. They want to withdraw their petition, and the immigration service has to abide by their request to do that. So in that case, that's where it's going to be important to get a consultation to see what your rights are and how you can move forward on your own. This process that I'm talking about tonight, the VAWA process, is exactly there to protect spouses of U.S. citizens and residents from this type of mistreatment and abuse. All right. So I'm seeing a number of questions. Hang tight while I get to your questions. I've been married to a U.S. citizen for 3 years now. He never sent my documents to the USCIS. Earl family, I see this often. Sometimes that's indicating that there's a problem in your marriage. And there's a deeper issue here. That spouse may be doing it to control your situation. They may be doing it from holding you back from getting status in the United States. You need to get legal advice to determine what your options are. And I would like to explore what your situation is in your marriage to see if you need help, because this is what I'm talking about here, VAWA. VAWA is not for situations, when I say mistreatment, it's not only for situations where your spouse is physically harming you, or that you've been injured, or your spouse has been arrested for domestic violence. It's in situations where your spouse is sabotaging you, they're keeping you from working, they're keeping you from getting your immigration status, they're threatening to deport you, they are calling you names, they're manipulating you, they're controlling you, they're keeping you from your friends and family. And so if this is a situation that sounds familiar to you, Earl family, that's where you need to get the help to determine what your options could be here. So if a person got divorced and the spouse received an extension for 2 years, what happens next? Will he get approved even if he is divorced? Lauren Neville, he may. However, it's so essential that this person gets legal advice, because they are not going to get approved. Once they get divorced, it's going to be denied unless that spouse proactively request a waiver for the divorce. And that waiver can be done at any time. Even though you've received a 2-year extension, after the divorce, and they've come to a point where they're going to make a decision, they can deny your application. So you need to make sure that you protect yourself, you take the actions you need to get your 10-year, because if you don't take those actions, it's going to turn into a very messy situation. This is one of the areas I also focus on. So schedule a consultation. Let's talk about your situation and talk about getting a waiver submitted ASAP so that you can have a better chance of getting through a smoother process and getting your 10-year green card. What does concurrent filing mean? It means filing, so you're filing 2 applications at one time. Can you explain the expedite? So expedite means where you're requesting that your case is moved faster. There are certain criteria that you have to meet in immigration to expedite your case. And so one is substantial economic loss to a person or a company or an organization. It may be an urgent humanitarian need, USCIS error, where the delay was caused because maybe USCIS made an error, and then in order that it has now come to their attention, or you point it out, and so now they also have to speed up your case. And then there is another one right now, and that is if you are a healthcare worker. If you're a healthcare worker, you don't just have to be a nurse or a doctor or you don't have to necessarily be like a certified healthcare worker in that capacity. You could be any type that you're in a support role. So you may be a ward secretary, you may be the janitor at the hospital, you may be the medical assistant. If that's the case, then you could possibly request that the USCIS, actually not possibly, you can, they just announced this, that you can request that your case be expedited just because there is a desperate need for healthcare workers, especially with the pandemic raging on. All right, let's see here. He brought me to a lawyer. I already give the lawyer $6,500. Nothing has been done. So Earl family, I'm sorry that has happened. And you should get advice about protecting yourself and making sure that you move through your process. How long it will take for someone to get through for them, wife or husband. So I'm seeing an average of 18 to 24 months. It could be more, could be less, depending on your case. If I did my biometrics in September, when do you think I'll get my work permit? Badi Shanti, the biometrics and the work permits are all over the place. So I wouldn't be able to tell you the estimated time after the biometrics. Yes, is that situation, I'm leaving now. So Earl family, I'm glad that you're getting out of the situation, and you may have additional options to have an immigration solution. So get legal advice. Now, for those of you who you're listening, you know you need legal advice and representation through your process. Call me, schedule a consultation, and let's talk. You can, there is a scheduling coordinator who's available up until 11 p.m. Eastern time at the office to take your call and help you to schedule. You can also go to the link in my bio where you will be able to get access to the link. You can schedule your own appointment there as well. Okay, so Earl family, make sure you get that legal advice. Waiting almost 1 year for the prima facie approval. Should I be worried? So Karen, I don't know what your case is, and so I couldn't tell you whether it's a bad sign or not. Cases are backed up, and I wouldn't be surprised if cases could even be backed up to 1 year. but you can always check on your case to make sure that they don't, that they haven't sent out anything. Usually you can't do it by phone, but you can do it in writing. I know as an attorney, I do have access to what's called the VAWA hotline only for the attorneys representing their clients. And I communicate with the VAWA unit, check on cases that way. I done it in the biometrics in June 2021, got my work permit on December 2021, and I will get my interview. Okay, so it sounds like you are on track. All right, so I've been talking about what kind of mistreatment qualifies you for VAWA. I've been talking about applying for your work permit, permanent residence, based on mistreatment. And what does this mean exactly? Mistreatment is abusive behavior towards you. So it's going to be, is this spouse manipulative, controlling, and is the spouse or parent, because keep in mind that if you're under 21, under 25 in some cases, and you're being mistreated by a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident parent, or by even a son or daughter who's 21 or over, this behavior can also qualify you to get relief. And this is going to be if they are verbally abusive, if they're yelling at you all the time, if they are manipulative, if they're controlling, if they're emotionally abusive, if they are physically abusive. But keep in mind, physical abuse is not required. Abuse is abuse, no matter what form it comes in. It is damaging in so many ways, even other than just leaving scars on your body, but it can leave internal scars. And so that does make you qualify for a form of relief here. So keep that in mind. TR3, thanks for sharing the live. Okay, so when will you get your interview? I wouldn't be able to tell you that, haunt me. It's going to vary. Processing times are varying just depending on service centers and so forth. So make sure you check on your case, make sure there's nothing that they need from you. Okay, so how long I need to stay at current work after getting EB3 green card? Does this matter for citizenship? So, Tanaji, there is nothing that says that you have to wait for a specific amount of time after you get your permanent residence. Of course, you still have to be wary of questions that may be asked. Should you just get up right after getting the green card and leaving? The officer is going to possibly scrutinize that and just to make sure that there was no kind of fraud involved in you getting the employment-based green card. And the reason that's why you have now left the position. But there's no law that says that you have to stay at the employment for a specific amount of time. Keep in mind that you may have, there may be an understanding between you and your employer to the extent of the law, of course, because, there's employment law that's involved. But to that extent, you and your employer would have, if you have an understanding or if you have an agreement, that's outside of the immigration law. You'd want to make sure that you have those considerations in mind to the extent that the law allows such types of obligations. And for citizenship, Tanaji, you would wait the standard 5 years to apply for citizenship. I did my biometrics in November. How still wait to get permit? So I wouldn't know Jari to Jari. It's varying. So, I have clients that they've gotten their work permit 1 month after doing their biometrics. And I've had clients that have had to still wait about 6 months to get their work permit after doing the biometrics. So it's varying. I did check. They said they were working on my appointment for the interview. So help me, just hang tight and continue to stay on top of your case. I'm not your attorney, so I wouldn't be able to tell you how long that's going to take. I have a friend, he applied on June 2021 and got his green card this month. Okay. Is it still possible to apply for work abroad programs in the USA from Jamaica? Yes, but you'd have to make sure that you qualify through an employer. For example, there's the H-2B, so you'd have to find an H-2B program. I have no contract with employer to stay for a specific time and planning to join another company. Okay, so Tanaji, you're getting very specific here. And if you really would want to make sure that your rights are protected and that you're going about this the right way, schedule a consultation and then we can talk about your situation and just make sure you're on the right track here. All right. So I've been talking about what kind of mistreatment qualifies you for VAWA. So the other question I get is, well, if I am being mistreated emotionally, how would I prove that for this type of application? And there are different ways. It is flexible just because the government accepts any credible evidence. And what that means is credible evidence is any believable evidence. So if you have your text messages, if you have pictures, if you have witness statements, if you have gone to counseling and you have the records from your counselor, if you have even recordings of conversations, and even though they don't accept USBs and videos, CDs with videos on it, I do get this transcribed for the Immigration Service to see. So these are examples of types of evidence that you can provide to show emotional abuse. In addition to that, there are also expert opinions where you can have your situation evaluated to show exactly why what happened to you is a form of abuse. Do I have to go through an agency to work abroad? Not necessarily. There are many different ways. Some individual employers recruit, agencies recruit. It's going to depend on what form of employment you're going to be doing and what you qualify for. What proof do you need to bring to your interview in Jamaica? So you usually get your interview notice, and they're going to list what you should bring with you to the interview. There's also on the embassy's website or the Department of State's website, they're going to have country-specific instructions on what documents you should bring with you. You should definitely make sure that if you're bringing civil documents like your birth certificate, your marriage certificate, you're bringing originals as well as the copies so that they can see the originals. Make sure that you look at that list, bring everything there, because yes, this can cause delays. And if you have an affidavit of support, make sure you carry the originally signed affidavit of support with you. But most important here is follow the instructions on your notice. All right. So that is going to be it for me tonight about what kinds of mistreatment qualifies you for VAWA. The truth here is that if you have been abused, if you have been traumatized, if you feel that you have been tremendously affected by a pattern of behaviors against you, but from your spouse, from your parent, or your adult son or daughter who's 21 and up, then get legal advice. Let's explore your situation and then determine whether this could be for you. It is an important form of relief because it offers you the ability to move forward with your life. It offers you the ability to work through a work permit and also to be able to get permanent residence. And you can do this even if you're out of status. Even if you came across the border without permission, it is still a possibility. Even if you have had situations where you've been arrested or where you've had other past immigration violations, there are ways to apply for your own forgiveness while applying for VAWA. So it is there to protect you because you've been through so much already. And now it's time to look out for yourself and get on the right path to fixing your situation. Go ahead, give me a call. My number's all over my videos. You can go to the link in my bio. You'll get a link to the website, a button that goes to the website, a button that goes to scheduling your own appointment. Go ahead, take advantage of those options and let us talk and fix your situation. Now, I am not finished yet. I'm going over to Instagram. So we can continue this conversation on Instagram in a quick minute. You can go to my profile. You'll see the Instagram button. Click on the Instagram button, or you can go to the link in my bio and you will see the Instagram button there as well. Go there if you want to continue asking your questions. And I will have a topic to talk to you about there as well. So I hope to see you in a minute. I hope to speak with you in a consultation where we can talk about it, make sure you qualify, and then get started right away. Have a good night.